Hello, and welcome to Tech Latest by Nikkei Asia, where we bring you the freshest updates from the technology sector in Asia. From Nikkei Asia's Tokyo headquarters, I'm Alice French. In this episode, I'm catching up with our chief business correspondent here, Mitsuru Obe, about some exciting developments in Japan's space industry. Hi, Mitsuru. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Alice. Thank you for having me today and for taking interest in the space industry.
So you're somewhat of a resident space expert at Nikkei Asia, and I noticed that you've recently been following one Japanese space company in particular. Tell me more about Astroscale. What do they do, and why were they making headlines recently?
Astroscale is a space debris cleaner. Space debris is junk that is circling the Earth. Debris is typically old rocket bodies or unused satellites. Japan's Astroscale plans to provide its service to government space agencies such as JAXA or to satellite constellation operators like OneWeb. But this is very much still a work in progress. The technology to remove space debris is under development. Between 2021 and 2022, Astroscale conducted a demonstration locating and tracking mock debris in space. This year, it is conducting another demonstration using real debris, the upper body of a large Japanese rocket launched in 2009. Recently, it succeeded in approaching 50 meters of the debris to make observations and take images. The company won a contract to remove that debris from orbit by JAXA, the Japanese space agency. So this is about their technologies. And on the business side, the company made an IPO this month in order to raise more money to do their projects. I have to emphasize, however, that this is debris removal is a highly challenging initiative. It's very different from looking for some garbage on the street and pick it up. Satellites are very small. Debris is very, very small. It's invisible from the ground. The only way to locate debris is with radar, for instance. You do not have exact information about it, such as its shape or how it flies. You cannot tell that without getting close to it. Also, debris may not be flying above your head. It may be flying on the other side of the Earth. So the operation to approach a debris and removal, the operation has to be conducted remotely by a self-guiding machine, not manually by human operators. If you fail and collide the satellite into debris, then you not only break your satellite, but could create more debris. So Astroscale raised about $200 million in 7 separate rounds, and in the IPO, raised another $120 million for a total of $320 million. For now, the company says its immediate financial needs are met. But again, this is not an inexpensive endeavor.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. Now, many listeners, I'm sure, think of satellite launches and lunar missions when they think about the space industry. But as you say, space debris might not have been on many people's radars. Just how big of a problem is space debris, though? You've lined out there how Astroscale is trying to clean it up, but what's the scale of this? And are there any other companies out there apart from Astroscale that are working to clean it up?
People started paying attention to space debris only recently. Before 2000s, before the rise of commercial space activity like SpaceX, before the emergence of China as a space power, there were relatively few rocket launches, about 100 a year. And each rocket carried only one satellite. So you had 100 rockets carrying 100 satellites a year before 2000s. Recently, especially after 2020, the number of launches has increased, led by the US and China. Now, launches are running at the rate of about 200 a year, and each rocket carries 20 to 30 satellites. So the number of launches has doubled. The number of satellites each rocket carries has increased 20 to 30 times. So you multiply them and you have 40 or 60 times more satellites a year. So indeed, about 2,000 to 3,000 satellites are sent into space every year recently. So the space has suddenly become more crowded, and the issue of space junk has started drawing attention. The US military makes a catalog of space junk, and they say there are some 30,000 pieces of junk circling the Earth currently. Some are small, some are big. Scientists are concerned about big ones because they can disintegrate or break up and create more debris. Japan itself created some of the biggest pieces of debris in the sky, including large Earth observation satellites launched in the late 1990s and early 2000s. They went out of operation and became a debris. Or the upper bodies of several H-2A rockets. They are still flying in space. Not all these pieces are considered posing imminent threats, but those in the busiest orbit around 600, 700 kilometers above ground, those can be very dangerous. Removing debris, again, is a technological challenge, and only a few other companies are trying to do the same. Swiss-based Clear Space is one company. They are developing a technology to grab debris using robot arms. Or Japan's Sky Perfect JSAT is another example. This company is going to use laser beams to push the debris into the atmosphere. And these technologies have other applications, locating object in space and make an approach and make a rendezvous. And these technologies can be used for other purposes, such as refueling, for instance, existing satellite, or helping other satellites to change their orbit. Astroscale CEO said that there are more than 100 companies looking to provide one of these services. A good example is Space Logistics, a subsidiary of Northrop Grumman. Chinese companies are also entering this market. So the Astroscale CEO says that 5 years ago, Astroscale was the only company operating in this space. Today, more than 100. So it is becoming a competitive marketplace.
I see, and I understand that Astroscale's recent IPO, which you just mentioned, follows the IPOs of two other Japanese space startups in 2023. Does this mean that we should be expecting big things from Japan's extraterrestrial pursuits in the near future? What's the outlook like?
Since last year, there were two other IPOs by space startups in Japan. One by a company called iSpace, which is a lunar transport service provider. And the other one was IQPS, which is a radar satellite operator. There are a number of other space startups in Japan, such as Synspective, which is a radar satellite constellation operator, and Axel Space, which is a optical satellite operator. And there are other startups too, including a launch company like Interstellar Technologies. But you have to remember, you have to think about also the market conditions. The IPO market is somewhat subdued recently because of higher interest rates. Higher interest rates mean that investors can earn returns by just investing in treasury bonds, for instance. They don't need to take risks to invest in startups. So startup companies in general are having a harder time attracting capital. And what's more, space startups tend to be capital intensive. They require a lot of initial investments. Profits come only after years of operations. These companies also depend a lot on government contracts for revenue. For instance, keeping orbit safe is a national security issue, and so the government is prepared to provide a certain amount of funding for debris removal projects. The hope is space startups will brush up their technologies and lower their costs while being supported by government and defense contracts, and find commercial demand and become a self-sustaining business and start making profits. When they become commercially self-sustaining, then investors will probably have more confidence in investing in these companies. And other space startups will find it easier to raise money in the stock market.
Okay, well, it sounds like we'll definitely have a lot to look forward to then in your future reporting on this market. And please do keep us up to date on how Astroscale does now that it's been listed. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope that you'll join us again soon.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's all for this episode. You can read more of Mitsuru's reporting, along with a host of other stories about Asia's tech industry, on Nikkei Asia's website, asia.nikkei.com. And if you like what you hear, why not subscribe to our weekly Tech Asia newsletter, which will be delivered to your inbox every Thursday. There's a link to sign up in the show notes. And whilst we've still got you, if you're enjoying Tech Latest and would like to support us, please do give us a follow on whichever podcast platform you use. We also really appreciate any reviews you can leave, as these help new listeners to find our episodes. Thank you for listening, and check back in next time for more updates on the tech trends that matter.